So it looks like LeBron James has straight up addressed the Michael Jordan comparison head on. And we're going to break down this ESPN interview that just dropped this morning around 7 a.m., where he dives deep into the GOAT debate. And you already know he's been compared to Michael Jordan his entire career. Think back to the year Michael Jordan walked away from the game for the final time with the Wizards. He was still active, but Jordan had already carried the NBA in terms of viewership and helped blow up the league's global popularity throughout the 90s. Maybe not at that same peak during the Wizards stint, but in those Chicago years, the Dream Team era, all of that, those three-peats, there was nobody more recognizable in basketball than Michael Jordan. So let's actually break down what LeBron said here. He said, "I hope I made him proud wearing that number 23. That's what he told Dave McMenamin. He says, "I've never really compared myself to MJ because our games are completely different. I've been a point forward my entire career. I've always been a pass-first type of player. MJ was more of a scorer. Not even kind of, that's just what he was. He was hunting buckets every night. There are areas where I feel like my game is different and maybe even better in certain aspects, but he was absolutely incredible. We're both great. We're both great basketball players at the highest level. So yeah, I'd say people compare our careers, but when it comes to style of play, I've always seen us as very different types of players." But he keeps going. He says, "There are definitely things MJ did better than I do. I also do things better than he does. That's just how basketball works. There are so many layers to this debate." And he even acknowledges people are going to twist what he says. "Man, I really think I'm one of one. I think the way I play the game is unique, almost like a system of my own. And MJ was the same in his own way. An unbelievable basketball player. His mid-range game was on another level. He did everything at an elite standard. I studied everything about him growing up. How he created space, how he rose over defenders. His post-game was also elite. And his mentality, his will to win. That's something everybody respects, that pure drive to dominate." He also says the whole GOAT conversation is tiring and basically just barbershop talk. Now listen, this is where I kind of pause for a second. We're gonna keep going because he did say more, but this part matters. I remember on The Shop right after he won the title in Cleveland, he basically implied that moment put him in the GOAT conversation. So when you've previously stepped into that space and claimed that level for yourself, then later called the debate tiring, it raises eyebrows. Because it feels like you can't fully dismiss it if you've already participated in it at the highest point of your career. At that point, you either let fans debate it or you stay completely out of it. But he continues and says, "You can look at both of us and love both of us without tearing the other down." And honestly, that's a fair point. He says most of the time it's him getting disrespected in these comparisons. But he also admits he's contributed to his own legacy in a major way. He says he never tried to become Michael Jordan, but growing up, he studied everything about him. He dreamed about those exact moments Jordan lived through. Game winners, signature shoes, flying through the air, crowds chanting his name, all of it. He says he needed those influences in music and sports just to build his own identity.
And now he shifts into one of the biggest pressure points in this entire debate, the final record. 4-6 for LeBron compared to 6-0 for Jordan, and that's always been the loudest talking point in the GOAT argument. You've got LeBron supporters pointing to longevity, all-time scoring, and his ability to dominate every statistical category. And on the other side, Jordan fans point to dominance, shorter peak, perfect finals record, and those iconic championship runs. So naturally, this is where things get really interesting. Because LeBron addresses the criticism directly. He says when he was younger, he used to listen to all that noise about losing in the finals, and he thought it was strange that people would rather you miss the playoffs completely than reach the finals and fall short. He even questions whether the criticism is amplified just because it's him. He says people constantly find something to say about his career no matter what he accomplishes. 8 straight finals appearances, but only 3 championships. All-time leading scorer in NBA history, and still the debate never stops. "Yeah, but I'm also the fastest to 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, and 10,000 points. Listen to this. When I really stepped back, I realized a lot of that criticism was just being used as a knock against me. So over time, I actually started to respect my own journey a bit more, instead of letting it bother me. Like, yeah, I'm frustrated I didn't have a higher winning percentage in the finals as an individual, but when people try to flip that into a negative narrative, it doesn't hit the same anymore like it did when I was younger. And that's basically what LeBron was getting at in this interview. Now hold up, because this is where it gets even more layered. When you say things like, "You'd rather I lose early than reach the finals," people are going to react immediately. A lot of LeBron defenders will flip that and point out how Jordan himself had early playoff exits too, like that series against Larry Bird and the Celtics. So yeah, you already know some fans are going to take that as a subtle jab, whether it was meant that way or not. And this is exactly why this debate always gets twisted in different directions, because once you start comparing greatness, everything becomes fair game for critique. If you nitpick enough, even all-time legends start looking human under that kind of pressure. That's why most people agree the real separation shows up in the postseason. That's where legacies either rise or collapse when everything is on the line. And that's also where the conversation around clutch performances always gets intense. But listen, clutch isn't just about the final buzzer moment at the end of the game. Sometimes it's about taking control earlier and shutting the game down before it even gets close. There are multiple ways to impact winning, not just one highlight shot. And sometimes players end up in late-game situations because earlier mistakes put that pressure on them. That's why you can't judge everything by one possession or one moment alone. Still, when you're a superstar, people are always going to measure how you respond when the game is tight, and that's where those unforgettable playoff moments are born. With Jordan, people immediately think about plays like the steal on Karl Malone and the iconic shot over Byron Russell. Those moments live forever because they defined championship-level execution. He took over exactly when it mattered most and finished the job. That's why those highlights are permanently stamped into NBA history. And on LeBron's side, fans point to moments like his dominance against Detroit in that playoff run.
And also that huge performance against Boston when Miami was under serious pressure in that series. Alright, listen, he's basically saying there are things he does better than MJ and things MJ clearly has over him. And when it comes to the GOAT debate, I'm gonna say flat out he's very much part of that conversation. And a lot of times you hear Michael Jordan approach it differently. He usually frames it as a generational debate. Basically, he explains that it's extremely hard to crown a single GOAT because doing so automatically steps on the players who came before and helped lay the foundation for modern stardom. And there exists exactly why a lot of people get uncomfortable with this whole discussion. And LeBron also made it clear you can respect both players without disrespecting either one. But he also pointed out that he's usually the one catching the most heat in these debates. Now, let's be real, plenty of people also come at MJ's legacy when they're defending LeBron. And that's just the reality of sports arguments in 2026. Everybody's online now. And I'm not even saying 99%, but a large portion of fans argue purely off emotion. So when people pick a side, it often turns disrespectful fast. Because at the end of the day, these debates are always emotional. Everybody's got a podcast now. They just want to get their takes and emotions out. But a lot of them don't actually understand the game at a deep level. So if you're consuming that kind of noise and it gets to you, it's going to affect how you see things online. And I'm pretty sure even Michael Jordan feels that pressure at times too. We've even seen it spill over into real life, like when he recently mended things with Charles Barkley, and Barkley had criticized his ownership in Charlotte, and at the time, many felt he wasn't entirely wrong. So yeah, people are always going to be sensitive about how their careers are discussed. No disrespect to LeBron, but he has definitely been part of the same conversations he calls barbershop talk, because he's also said you don't have to tear one guy down to build another up. And we've also seen people from his circle, like Rich Paul, jump into these discussions and push narratives about MJ, whether it's about shoes, eras, or even team strength. So when those takes come from your own camp, people are going to connect you to it whether you like it or not. That's why you have to acknowledge you're actively part of this whole conversation. And here's the thing, people are watching all of this unfold in real time. And a lot of them are going to say, you already know you're not getting to 6 rings. They'll say you can't catch MJ in that category, so now you're shifting the narrative. That's the argument you're going to hear everywhere. So after everything LeBron said about respect, differences, and calling the GOAT talk barbershop noise, one thing is obvious. He's not avoiding the conversation. He's actively shaping it. But the real question is, did he settle the respect between eras or just add more fuel to an already heated rivalry? Because at the end of the day, both fan bases believe they're holding the truth. So I gotta ask you straight up, who actually has it right? MJ fans or LeBron fans? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, and remember, this debate is never dying.